Hello and welcome everybody to the Roll Down podcast, hosted by yours truly, Cutler. Look, I've been stuck inside for 6 days now. I haven't seen my family or my friends over the Christmas break, so I'm really making up for lost time here. The last person that I saw was Sol, and that was last week on the podcast. So I need a little bit of sort of human interaction, and that's why I brought my trusty co-host Sol with me. Welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure as always to be here.
Merry Christmas. I'm going to introduce our lovely guest, a man who doesn't particularly need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. The young Alpha D, a man of immense talent, streaming prowess,
Hello.
powerful, interesting man with a great stream and a great little community. It's Dahpla. Dahpla, welcome to the stream.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our
Yeah,
pleasure.
my pleasure to
Welcome,
be
welcome.
here.
Yeah, great to have you here.
We usually start off with our guests and we ask them a pretty easy question, like how did you get started with TFT?
Oh, that's a good one. I always think back myself when I started. I did play it on PBE when it first came out. But back then, I had no auto chess experience. And I played it because I enjoyed League back then. And I kind of got competitive in set 3 when my friend kind of reintroduced me back into the game. And I was like, wow, this game is so fun. I'm playing 8 games per night. And then I took it to ranked and I was like, oh, I'm actually, not too bad at this game. So been playing ever since, and yeah, got to meet a lot of people from playing the game, and now we're here. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. We're going to get started because we have a bit of a big topic today, and that's going to be covering an entire 4.5 hour AMA that Mort did a couple of days ago. Actually, it's probably a week ago since the podcast, but it's been Christmas time. But first, I want to sort of talk about where we are right now. If you're listening to this, this is sort of the last week of the 2021. We are on a patch that is dividing opinion. Let's put it that way. I want to ask from the two challenger players how they're enjoying the patch, though, and I'll start with Dahpla. Dahpla, how are you going in game at the moment? Are you liking the patch?
So I think with patches like these, it's always like you by playing it for a long time, longer than 2 weeks, you start to realize that there's a lot more to get better at because everything has been so consistent for so long. So I'm kind of reaching that point where it's like I thought I was good at the start of the patch. I thought it clicked for me, and then over time I realized that I got a little complacent, and then now I'm kind of getting back into playing back to improve again. So I think the patch is good though. I have seen myself climb, but I just think I can still squinch a little more. But I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah.
Sol, what are your thoughts currently on the patch? You've been streaming quite a lot, before Christmas,
Yeah.
in the week
Decent amount.
leading up, you were streaming quite a bit. So
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about your challenger experience at the moment.
Been liking it. I think it's a pretty solid patch overall, given the state of the game going into the patch. They had a lot of problems that needed to be fixed, and a lot of bugs that needed to be squashed. So I'm pretty happy with where they landed. I'm gonna say it's obviously not perfect. There's a lot of issues. There are a lot of issues with the current state of the game, but I think overall I'm happy with the patch.
Yeah, I think if you looked online or if you were sort of looking at the kind of popular opinion going around at the moment, you would think that every game was just 8 people having 3 socialite plus a 5 cost legendary board, and it doesn't really shake up like that too often
No,
on
very exaggerated.
in ranked, especially watching a whole bunch of different people, all the way up to the highest ranks. There's a lot of variation going on at the moment, which actually makes it quite interesting. I will say that
Okay,
as we go into
I
it,
did play One Love. You say it's funny you say that though, and I mostly agree. I did play One Love You with Angora though. Shout out to Angora in chat. I did play One Love You with Angora, where 5 of the top 6 players all had Kai'Sa at stage 4, and at
Or
one point
Kai'Sa
there was
lottery.
there was 0 Kaisers in pool. At one point all Kaisers were out of pool. So overall, those games are very rare. I just wanted to interject.
Sometimes you hit Kaiser at level 7. Sometimes you just get lucky, I guess. You know, better lucky than good sometimes in this game. Dapla, what's your experience with the 3 socialite board at the moment? Do you think it's too good? There's a lot of people out there this needs to be nerfed into the ground, remove Kaiser from the game. Why does she even exist?
I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm not gonna lie. It's like I do enjoy the broken things when I'm able to play them. I don't enjoy them when other people have them, and I just see a GA Kai'Sa that I can't reach every time. But particularly, I enjoy playing Fiora with it. I don't know why. It's just a very fun champion. You see her, dash around, and then just beat the most cracked boards sometimes. It's just very fun to watch. So, aside from the 5 costs, even though I do like my Kai'Sa, I like my Victor. I haven't tried the Akali version or any of the other 5 costs that carry. I do like my I do like my Fiora. I'm gonna say so. I've been having a lot of fun. Yeah.
And we're going to be not stuck with this, but we do have at least another, 1 more week, 2 more weeks of this patch. So,
one more.
1 more week. So
Probably one more, I think.
At the very least, we've got a little bit longer left to see how it shapes up a little bit. Is there anything that you guys are seeing at the moment that is really not good enough?
Lux?
Aside from Lux. Can we stop talking about Lux on this podcast? The unit sucks, and until they triple buff it, I'm never talking about it on this podcast again.
What other champions?
Lux? That's pretty good.
I actually think the other champions are not bad.
There's a lot of stuff that's pretty good, pretty alright at the moment. I mean,
Reroll's pretty bad. Katarina's pretty bad. Trundle is pretty bad. Vex is fine, but not really rerollable anymore. Yeah, I think reroll is not that good. But the fast egg boards, besides Lux, are all pretty good. I think Yone is fine. Fiora is good. Urgot is good. Ginny is good. Yeah. Feel free to,
yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff. Dapla, what do you think?
I don't know. I think maybe the one that comes to mind is maybe Samira. I don't know. I just can't seem to make it work. It doesn't feel particularly amazing as your late game carry. Because I don't know. It sounds weird, but all she does is damage, but she doesn't even do it as efficiently as other carries. And then
they were even gonna buff her
Lux.
more. They were even gonna buff her more, but the emergency toned it down. So
I think it was good that they were cautious, but hopefully a few more nudges. Yeah.
I think the biggest issue with Samira right now is that it doesn't kill enough stuff late game. Stage 3, stage 4, you actually do a really good amount of damage with Samira. Very, very strong, very easy to hold items for any late game. It's just stage 5 and onwards. Oh man, you get in trouble on stage 5 and onwards. You can't kill anything.
Yeah.
Tier 2 Scion, Galio 2.
Yeah.
Even Brom 2 is provides a really hard task because Samira just gets knocked up twice, basically. I mean, that's pretty much it for the meta at the moment. I mean, there's not really all that much going on. Everyone's trying to play Kai'Sa. Everyone's trying to play Victor. Everyone's trying to play
Victor.
Kali. Everyone's playing Jhin. There's a lot of Jhin players.
Yep.
Nobody's really playing Cho'Gath. Yeah, Urgot's pretty good. I mean, not much has changed in the last week, really.
It's mostly just all the reroll comps significantly fell off, and then all the fast day comps right now are just really broken.
Yeah,
you see Zero Samira, you don't see any Cho'Gath. You occasionally might see a Cogball, Protector Cogball game, but yeah, no Katarina, no Trundle. Very occasionally you might see some Shaco, but yeah, not very many reroll comps.
In my sort of Cogmore experience, you can't kill Galio. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Cogmore cannot kill Galio.
I think it's more Cogmore without QSS, just you want to cry. Cogmore without QSS, you just cry as the sun, Galio just perma CC your Cog, and you can't kill anything, you're just yeah.
Yeah, basically that's it.
That plus your 3-star protectors, unless you hit super early, they just get outscaled really quickly. Once you hit stage 6, your board just melts. A Kai'Sa just kills everything. You're just okay. Sad noises.
And I mean, I had an experience. If you miss any of the protectors, like if you don't have 3-star for any of them, and you're like losing health, and you have to go up. Oh boy, your board does not stay alive.
Oh no,
for very
it's
long.
that,
you
that,
have
that's
to you
that's
have to
auto.
get 3-star on all of them, basically.
Yeah. It's not everything, and then it's like maybe a top 4, and sometimes it's still a top 4.
It's like you need a lot of prerequisites to make it
Mm.
functional. Like it's a lot more demanding, and that's just to get it to work. And then like you can get it first, but you have to Omega high roll
You need
basically
to-
everything.
Yeah.
Talk to me about
Big trade sec.
Fiora, Dahpla.
Mhm.
You've been
Oh,
playing a lot of
Fiora.
Fiora. You've been practicing. You've been posting in our Discord quite a bit about the sort of different variants of Fiora. Talk to us a little
Yeah.
bit about like how the unit feels at the moment to play.
First of all, shoutouts to K3U, because basically I learned all the tech from that guy. It's like the anti-meta comp, but also using parts of the meta like Socialite and Scholar. It just like the problem with Fiora when she got nerfed from PvE is that her mana cost got increased, so it would take her a while. But you put her on the Socialite square, you give her basically any damage items that aren't terrible, and she ends up, because she gets untargetable when she ults, it ends up being a really good counter to stuff like Urgot, because you can burst Urgot down. If you have QSS, it's good into Jhin and the Cyan Brawl frontline. It's actually pretty good into Kai'Sa because she doesn't have to spend half the fight dashing around. Assuming you can break to the front line in time. It's just like a very bursty version of what we have for other Socialite carries. Because Kai'Sa is like the deal damage to everyone. Like you either kill everyone or you kill no one with a few missiles up there. But Fiora would just get like burst early, and then even like splashing, like if you run Yone and then you splash, or like even mercenaries, I've seen like Get Off do this, where you just splash a Fiora or Fiora 2, and then you cash out because she actually bursts a lot of units pretty quickly. So yeah, it's just a very good champion, and then having the stuff around her that enables it just makes her quite strong, I would say.
Nice. Yeah, really cool. Do you think like she's sort of a unit that doesn't really excel all that much with like the innate buffs that she's given? She's kind of just got a lot of base damage. Really, that's like her best quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that about the game at the moment, that it feels relatively sort of back and forth, except for the games when everyone in the top 4 has Kai'Sa, and then it just feels like a mess. Let's.
I think that's
Oh, sorry, go on.
if I could just quickly add, I think with Fiora, that's probably the coolest thing. That's like taken her so long to catch on. Or obviously she's been buffed a bit, but like people realizing that like you don't actually build her around Challenger at all,
Yeah.
and that she's more like she's more like a caster than anything. So you want to build her
Yeah.
with a lot of things that can tank for really long, can heal for really long, and then she'll eventually outscale the fight and kill everything. But yeah.
Yeah, mana gen, even AP.
Hmm.
Not challenges because goddamn, she has a lot of bugs right now with challenges.
Yeah, exactly. And challenges are so squishy anyway, right? Like you don't really want to run challenges with
Yeah,
Fiora,
you
is it?
really would not.
Like I think Kai'Sa's the one you usually play her with if you play Challenger, but otherwise you don't really want to play Challenger with Fiora. But yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the patch to want to play a weak frontline.
Oh, absolutely.
You cannot play. You cannot play stuff that dies pretty quickly
absolutely.
on this patch right now. You will not be pleased, basically. There's basically no joy for you in playing a weak frontline right now. Guys, we have a relatively big topic to move on to, but I will let you get one last word in, Sol.
Oh, okay. I just want to really quickly add that like vertical Yone without like upgraded Braum is just an auto AF, I feel like. And then with Braum it's like pretty good. But yeah, if you don't have frontline this patch, it is not great.
Yeah. And reminds me very much of the sort of Sejuani Aatrox sort of late patches of set 4.
Oh my god.
4? Yeah.
Good times. Good
Yeah.
times.
Where it was every board had Sedge 1 and Aatrox 2 or Sedge 2 and Aatrox 1. Like it was just, you just kind of traded it with everybody. That's kind of what it feels like right now, but at least there's like three more. There's 3 more options than previous time. Yeah.
Well, it's not as bad as Set 4, because Set 4 everyone just had the same front line. Like Set 4, literally everyone's front line was just
Yeah.
Sejuani Aatrox, because they were both vanguards, right? They were both
Mm.
focus vanguards, so everyone just had the same front line. But yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, we have a nice sort of, we have different options, but it definitely feels like, it definitely feels like we're sort of getting to the point where it's kind of like meat shields
Yeah.
plus backline.
Sure.
It usually takes a lot longer to get there in a patch. Usually, like the last like month of a set is like, oh, I'm just gonna play meats and then cool backline stuff, and that's it. But you know, there's a little bit of mixing it up right now, which is very cool. Very cool indeed. Big topic of the episode, the Mortdog AMA. It's old by the time that this comes out. Not old, but it was a week ago. And we had to stop for Christmas. You know, we can't talk about this every day as much as we'd love to. We've sort of picked apart about 10 or so questions from the AMA that we wanted to discuss, go through it, sort of hear Mort's opinions on it, and then kind of give our own opinions, see if they match up, see where we see the game going, see if sort of the main designer of the game sees the similar things, and just sort of chat about it. Let's get into it. First things first, we have, and sorry, it is a very long list, so I will have to read off it, but just 1 second, just while I sort us out. So the first one that we're going to talk about is, Mort was asked about assassins, and as a vehement assassin hater, I can say that it's really good to be a part of a group of fellow haters of Sin players and Sins in general. So Mort was asked if assassins sort of, at some point in every set, they're always a problem, but they're always there.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
how are they thinking about ways to change assassins in the future? Are they thinking about ways to make them better, worse? Are they even thinking about not bringing them back? You know, do they see that assassins are a problem? Mort's basic answer, realistically, was that the mechanic of assassins will always exist.
yes,
Yeah.
And the idea is that they're unsure how they should scale assassins, but they want assassins to have multiple different avenues to damage. I will go last on this one because I hate assassins, so I'm gonna have a different opinion probably to you two. But we'll start with Dahpla. Dahpla, what are your thoughts on like the mechanic of assassins? You know, jump to the back line, crits, you know, kill the carries, try and clean up. It's been here for a long time.
Yeah, no, it's super good. I think I definitely agree when he mentions that the like a necessary part of the game. Like, it's probably the main answer to when you see they have their fourth row carry and they don't have anything third row, and it's kind of like exposed from the front. But then in front of them on the first row is that huge tank that you just can't deal with if you're running front to back. So it's completely necessary, and then that's just only talking about assassins in late game, assuming you've like been running assassins and you can build up to that point. And then you consider the opposite of that, which is early game assassins, where you don't have a good board, you need to kill units, you need an easy way of doing that, and they have a 1-star backliner that's kind of isolated. And like, I like the example that he gave with Kha'Zix. He was basically saying that Kha'Zix is like probably one of the most ideal one-cost assassins, or just assassins in general, I would say at that point, because it kills unit. Like, it does what it's meant to do, or it does what I think the players want it to do. And then I was also having a think about like, oh well, you know, if that's probably like the pinnacle of great assassins throughout the sets we had, then what are like some of the worst assassins? And then instantly the first thing I'm thinking about is Viego. Like,
Really?
damn. Like,
okay, I would have had a different answer, but okay.
as in like how it feels to players to see a Viego and then just
Right.
see you carry, just because what it was it wasn't, it didn't even need to be a one-shot assassin at that point. It was just a 8-second stun assassin, which didn't really feel good, especially because of the low mana cost. So sometimes it could actually break free and then restun. It did not feel great in that last set.
Interesting.
And then like other callouts like Shadow Frozen Heart Diana from last set. Good stuff. Like that thing was so broken, but it was like so fun when you had it. And then when you see it jumps on your carry, it's just like, oh man, I enjoy playing the game. Yeah. But yeah, and then one of my most favorite, but still broken, was pre-nerf Enlightened Talon.
Oh, yeah.
With the resets. That was super fun. Like it's like there are some that are really good and hit the spot, and then there are some that are broken but still fun when you have them, and then there are some that just
Mhm.
don't feel amazing to players. So that's kind of my thought on assassins. I think they'll always be a necessary part of the game. Maybe not in like the same form. Like I think like having the infiltrators with set 3, like that was a fun variation. Where they did a similar thing, but their ability reset was different.
It was attack speed. Yeah.
Yeah, gaining attack speed. Like it still helped them achieve what they wanted to achieve, which was to kill a unit faster, but in like a slightly different manner. I think that like having variation in types of assassins will be great.
Interesting, isn't it? I think of a very different assassin than anything that you've said. I think about set 2Z as like
Oh god.
as like,
Oh
because
god.
it wasn't even really a quote unquote assassin, but the stuff that it had made it just so unbelievably ridiculous to play against.
Yeah.
I mean, set 3 Shaco is a good example. Yeah, set 4 Kane.
Oh, I like that Volcane.
Was a different, but they like went invisible.
Yeah, I mean Shade is basically assassin, to be fair.
Yeah.
Almost
So
forgot
what
about
are your thoughts on assassins?
Okay. I find it really So I find it really interesting that Dahpla used Viego as an example as his most hated one, because I feel like by that logic of Kha'Zix being like the most well-designed assassin, Viego should, by the exact same logic, be one of the better assassins they've designed, because Viego is single target. He can be punished via positioning, but I think it just feels really bad to play against, which I understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the worst assassin they've designed is Diana by a long shot. That unit is. Okay, to quote Mort, right? To quote Mort, he even said that like the two worst assassins they've ever designed are Diana and Fizz, because they punish you for like doing like they punish you for what's intuitively like the counter to like positioning around Sins, where like you backline your tanks and stuff for the Sins to get stuck on, but like things like Diana and Fizz just punish you because they just blow up they just AoE your entire board anyway, right? So I think like he also mentioned that like moving on, they want to really avoid giving Sins access to AoE abilities, especially like AoE CCs. To just like really quickly jump back, I think obviously I believe that like Sins are into like just the sim mechanic of a unit jumping into the backline is sort of integral to the game and should always exist. I think the game would be it would lose a dimension and become very one-dimensional if everything was purely front to back and every fight was just like how fast can I chew through their front line, right? I think Sins absolutely need to exist for that metric. I really, really want them in set 7 to like not have Sins scale with crit for once, because we've played 3 sets in a row now where Sins have scaled with crit every single time, and it's getting really boring. I feel like I feel like I speak for a lot of people when like it's really boring to see best in slot assassin carry be like Infinity Edge Guardian Angel +1 every single set. But Guardian Angel is a different thing. But like the fact that they scale with crit means that like Infinity Edge will always be the best damage item, which I think narrows a lot of decision making and a lot of different other options for itemization. But those are just my general thoughts and sense.
You see a lot of the understanding of their desire to change Sins in this set, I think, especially with Echo, because Echo's is an AoE ability, but it doesn't AoE exactly where he's jumped to, which is like one of the biggest issues with the ones that they consider to be bad design. It actually, his ability generally goes away from him, and it goes to the biggest clump. So unless you're like hard clumped right on top and Echo jumps into the middle, he's never ulting exactly where he is, which is actually probably just despite Echo being a balanced or unbalanced unit, it's actually a balanced way to make the ability, I think.
No, Echo is well designed for sure. Echo is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really well designed for sure. I really like Echo this set.
So I think
like
that's quite a nice like roundabout way of saying you can see that their designs have changed a little bit. That's what they want. Whether or not the ones that the rest of them, the rest of the assassins in this current set, work or not is kind of up for debate, really. But I also think that if their pinnacle is Kha'Zix, then they don't have a Kha'Zix in this current set. I don't think they've nailed.
There's Talon.
Talon,
Talon.
arguably,
Tal-
is probably
Talon
the
is single
closest thing.
target. I think Talon's
Yeah.
fine this set. I think he's well designed. I think
I like
Katarina
Talon.
is the infuriating assassin design this set.
Mm.
Katarina just like when she was broken, like it felt impossible to play against, right? Because like she just jumps all over the place, and like you just feel like you can't really position for it. But yeah,
It's like that feast or famine kind of
Mm.
situation, right? Because
Mhm.
man, like I don't know what spot I was in. I just tried to run as Katarina 2 as my item
Yeah.
holder, and it's like you either get 6-0'd or you
Or you
win.
6 of them. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, great. Now I'm ping ponging, so that's fun.
I think Katarina's always gonna be like that though. Just the nature of her champion kit in just League of Legends. Like if you think back to previous sets Katarinas, it's very similar. Like set 5 Katarina, like she just again dashed all over the place, didn't really care about
Yeah.
positioning. I thought Katarina was probably the better one, where like the positioning actually did matter because like she had a like spin thing. But yeah,
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't mind that assassins exist. I just think that they have, until probably aside from Katarina, this set, probably they haven't really worked out a way to make them feel fair to play against for a long time. Like you never felt like it was fair to play against Nocturne, Assassin,
yeah.
Fiddle. You never
Oh,
really
so
felt
Sapphire was
that.
the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sapphire was the most bullshit. I think Sapphire was like easily the most bullshit.
Mm. And
yeah.
if you even go back to set 3 with Infiltrators, it didn't. You never felt like it was completely unfair to play against Darkstar Shaco. Like there was probably one patch where I think they buffed Shaco and it was like the only thing to play. Like, but that was just Darkstar in general. I think there was that patch where everybody played 6 Darkstar.
Yeah, everyone.
Because
I
it
mean-
was just after Xerath got released.
I mean, the sync comp in Step 3 was mech. Let's be real
Yeah.
though, and the mech is easily one of the most broken cards of the game. So
Exactly.
I mean,
So-
but I think Info was broken in Step 3 because of mech though. I think if mech doesn't exist, then it would be a very different story. But yeah.
Hmm. Oh yeah, very true. And obviously, that's a whole nother issue. Kai'Sa was another reason that the Infiltrator was broken.
Emma Kai'Sa, yeah.
Emma,
yeah.
Kai'Sa, good
Emma
time.
Kai'Sa.
Oh, the good old days. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in that. I think Mort's right. I think that if they go away from the definitive like AoE abilities being a trait of one assassin every set, great. That's good. I think there's way more room to make interesting single target assassins. Viego is not. I agree with Dahpla. Viego is an absolute horror show. That was a serious miss for what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
That was it was like
It was
basically a
broken.
trade, a 1-unit trade.
I mean, he's
Like,
broken for sure.
He was broken.
I play one Viego, I get one of your unit. That was basically.
Okay,
That was
but I
basically
think it was
trade.
like better towards the end when it actually like nerfed his 1-star damage. But for
Yeah.
the most part, like
Oh,
when 1-star
I
Viego.
remember.
Okay, when
Oh.
1-star Viego was just killing anything, that's when it was like broken for sure. I agree.
When the scaling was so whack and it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
ramped up, it like doubled per second basically. That was
Yeah.
when it was like I don't think anyone realized how much that is when it
Damage.
doubles because
Yeah.
it's times 2 and then the next second it's multiplied by 2 of that instance and then the next second it's times 2 again. So it's like exponential scaling. Well, it is exponential scaling.
Mhm.
Which
I think
in
when they
1-star
made
was
it
really
that,
strong. Yeah.
I think when they made it that 1-star didn't kill but just CC'd was when I think they hit the sweet spot, and then 2-star
Yeah.
was like still really really good. But like
Yeah.
at that point, it's a 2-star, it's a 2-star 5 cost. It should probably be good. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Moving on to the next portion of the AMA. Guardian Angel. Big one.
Yeah, tough one.
Big one. The question essentially asks, for previous sets, the interaction with people dying during GA has been considered way too overpowered. and you've removed it. They use Aphelios as an example, set 4 Aphelios, as an example of removing a death animation mechanic with GA. We're sort of back to it now. Yon and Urgot, both abilities continue to go while in GA. I'm pretty sure Kaisa does as well.
Yep.
Like her things continue to go even while she's in there.
Kaisa is different though, but yeah.
Yeah, Kaisa's a little bit different to those two because she's not melee, basically, like not like one square. They ask a lot of questions about whether or not this interaction is deemed fair, like what their opinion of it is, what Mort's opinion of it is, and they basically suggest that it's a frustrating mechanic. Mort's answer to this question was basically that they don't have a simple solution to this problem, but they recognize that it is an inconsistent issue that they need to work on. Sol, do you want to talk a little bit about this sort of question at large?
Yeah. So I mean, the thing I should probably add, I didn't put it in the notes that we're reading them off of, but Mort did also importantly mention that moving forward, that what they really do need to do is they need to up the clarity on the differences between sort of how spells work. So, like Urgot and Yone, for example, their spells are more akin to channels, whereas Kaisa Ultimate is more akin to a cast, if that makes sense. I think, like, ideally, right, what Mort and the team want to do is they want GA to be an item for you to guarantee your cast. So, like, GA should be an item that lets your cannon ulti go off from, like if you think back to, like, set 4 cannon, where he would lightning the whole board, like, your cannon ulti, your RE Spirit Bomb, your GP ulti from set 3, Kaisa ulti in this set. But it probably shouldn't allow you to maintain a channel, such as, you know, Aphelios turrets, Urgot machine gun, Yone Spirit, right? I think that's that's probably what the more in the team want out of the item, and I feel like I'm in the same boat. I think GA being a way to guarantee that, you know, your unit casts this spell is really nice. I like that also GA is a nice carry item in that, like, it helps protect vulnerable backliners like Jhin from assassins. But I think that GA, when it's on like a unit like Urgot, a very high DPS glass cannon unit, it just gets to keep machine gunning your units while he's like dying. I think that's when it's like, you know, sort of over the line, and that's not very fun. But yeah.
Yeah, Dahpla, your thoughts?
It was a good trip down memory lane because I remember about the GA Aphelios interaction from set 4. Which also made me realize that they have the ability to remove specific instances of this interaction. Even though it's like technically something that's baked in from League of Legends, I think. It's gonna be part of the game because TFT is part of League of Legends and they use assets, code, design, whatever that comes from the League of Legends team, which is probably where this interaction came from. Where was I going with this? I think, like, because for me, I kind of got used to these interactions and like knowing that now that that's how they get strength, right? Like a GA Urgot is how it becomes strong because even though it dies, you're still able to have a chance to get the cast off, and then end up killing some more units. And then it's like something that I've kind of learned to play around. Like even when Aphelios was strong, it's just like, oh, you know, at worst, it's like a 1 unit loss because the rest of the units are kind of wads. But I agree. Like I don't think it's healthy for the game because it's not always consistent. And like the Kai'Sa thing wasn't consistent until last patch, I think, or 2 patches ago.
Last patch.
Because I was running GA Kai'Sa back then, and I like in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, okay, intuitively, like if she's gonna cast, like if she's through like halfway through her pathing while she dies, she should be able to reach the end of a path in GA, and then she should be able to cast. But that's not how it works. So there definitely needs to be clarity. Like I'm not sure what their approach would be, like because I'm not a designer or anything. But from a gameplay perspective, you ideally we know what it is before it happens, or ideally we know which spells remain and which spells don't remain before we try the GA on the unit.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? More talking about clarity is very important, I think, when it comes to this. Before a set comes out, we should really know if a unit has a GA interaction like that, kind of.
Yep.
I think it would be necessary, and I also think it would make everyone feel a little bit like you would understand it more. You'd be like, oh, okay, so this unit can still cast when it dies. Okay, that's good to know, because that means I can put GA on it reliably. It's not like you don't get 2 weeks into playing with Yone and in the set and you're like, oh man, God, remember Aphelios? Why can't they just do that to this unit? It's so annoying. It's probably like
yeah.
I thought they didn't like that, because right now it's like when you think about those units, you think like, well, they've got rid of it in the past. Why is this okay? Tell me that it's okay and that you allow it to be okay, and then I don't have to complain about it anymore. Really.
Well, it's at its worst in the Yone meta, right? Because to make things
Yep.
like compound problems, his clone was even bugged.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, it was even worse in the Yone meta. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one. I think that there's a lot that they can do to make it feel better for players going into a set, because you don't want to sit there for 2 weeks, like with the Yone meta, for example, and even though you don't know that there's a crazy bug that's ruining everything, you do at least know that, like, oh well, the clone's supposed to be there when GA goes off. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I get that. I don't need to complain about that. Maybe I then can complain about the clone does too much damage, or Yone does too much damage, or the attack speed of Urgot going up in GA is really annoying because he just gets all his health back when he comes up, or whatever it may be. It doesn't necessarily matter, but the idea should be that it's consistent and you should be able to feel like it's consistent. I don't know if there's like a neat way to change GA. I feel like it should still.
I think that ideally it's as I said earlier, as like I mentioned earlier, that they distinguish just in like the units like ability text, right? They distinguish between a cast and a channel. And that I think that GA should work for casts but not for channels. I think is ideal. I think GA probably should not work for things like Urgot and Yone. But it absolutely should work for things like Kaiser.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. Because it's great that we have access to GA. It's a really cool item. It's really nice, really good, and underrated on like frontline style units. So, I mean,
Oh, dude, guys, here's a thought, real quick. Could you imagine if like it worked on Jin? Could you imagine if Jin kept firing bullets while in Jin's stasis?
I
can imagine it, and I can imagine they would get rid of it immediately.
Yeah, how bad would that feel? Could you fucking imagine? Oh, it's actually so funny.
Actually, that's a
good point, right?
a good point there.
How
Because
does it not work on Jin? No, I know why it doesn't though.
like the difference, like for us, we like to think of abilities between like casts and channels. Like, and then you bring up the Jin example where he's technically auto attacking.
Yes, Jin's
during
auto
his
that's why it
ult.
doesn't work. Yeah, that's why it doesn't work because it.
Yeah, but it doesn't work. But then like, what is Urgot's ability? Are those just a lot of autos?
It's like Lucian ulti. It's not autos at that point. It's like a spell. Yeah, as you said, it's like a spell where the damage is from instances of autos. I don't know. I'm like running in circles.
Yeah, it's like for like the design team that has to think about a solution that works for everything in the future. Like, how do you even begin to tackle this?
How do you even write it right?
Yeah, it's like the problem's not really with like what the abilities do. It's more like I feel like the problem begins from champions in League have animation times when they cast an ability. Like that blue bar that appears like when you cast. Like I'm thinking about like Heimer when he does his triple cast. It takes longer than his like single cast. Like, what happens if he dies in between like 1 and 2 or 2 and 3? Like, is he still gonna get the last?
Did the missile still keep going? Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a weird
but yeah.
spot. Yeah. I don't know if like I was thinking like a quick fix, like a really terrible quick fix, is just to reduce the invulnerability time and make them come up faster.
Oh,
but
no,
that's like a band-aid That's like a really small bad day to a really big scar. It's like a terrible. Yeah, they need to do
I mean,
something better than that.
yeah, I mean, you gotta give your units some time to get de-aggroed. I mean, can you imagine if like your Jin goes down and then gets back up in like half a second, and its talent immediately re-aggroes and kills your Jin again?
Good stuff.
Like,
Good stuff. Yes.
I would be so angry.
High value item.
Yeah, you gotta give him some time to de-aggro.
Yeah, at least a second.
Mm-hmm.
Just kills it, revives, kills it again.
Kills it again.
Sick.
For sure. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Interesting one. That was a big one that I wanted to talk about was GA. I think that's a really interesting one. And I mean, if anyone's got any opinions on GA in the chat, feel free to let us know or tag us on Twitter, anything like that. All right. Next question, Mort was asked: how do you guys distinguish a bad/unhealthy meta from a good one? What do they think specifically?
So
is a good
in
meta?
sort of the it's sort of like Mort's answer is basically like an ideal meta, right? You basically want to have multiple champions in each sort of cost bucket be able to succeed as a carry. So in like a perfect meta, right, you would be able to reroll for some 1 cost, some 2 costs, and some 3 costs as your carries. At the same time, there will be some 4 cost comps, that you can fast state for. And there should also probably be some legendary comps that you can play around as well. This is a utopic ideal world. In reality, this is almost never the case. And they tend to distinguish a sort of healthy and like they tend to distinguish like a healthy meta as a meta where like you can play like a reasonable amount of different carries, where you can reroll and you can fast state. And an unhealthy meta is one where like even if you can play a lot of different carries, if there's only one right way to play the game, then it's unhealthy. So for example, like if you're in a meta where it's purely correct to fast state, then that's not very good. If you're in a meta where you can only reroll, that's also not very good, even if you can play a lot of different comps. But yeah.
Oof.
Is this the question where he also said that reroll is? What did he say exactly? Like he said reroll. For the game.
It's good.
Like,
yeah, it's good for the game. Yeah,
it'll always be good for the game.
It is good for the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
reroll needs to exist.
Because you don't want to force players to do a specific thing. Like reroll essentially makes fast state healthier because it exists. Yeah.
It punishes people greeting fast state. So reroll inherently needs to exist.
Yeah.
As everyone just gets to play 5 costs.
And then at the same time, like fast state needs to exist. Otherwise, why would you ever level if you can just?
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just pressing D.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like it creates a dynamic game path for everyone, even though solely because everyone's doing different things. Yeah, and that creates a healthy game.
For sure.
But for unhealthy metas, I think it's obvious, like when you don't feel satisfied coming out of a game because like or coming out of like multiple games, like let's just say you play a session of games and then you realize that something has been problematic over multiple games now, that it just doesn't feel like you don't want to go back to play because you already know what you might expect to be a problem again. That's probably an indicator, a bad indicator.
Another indicator of, I'll start with good meta. I wanna start with like Mort's answer to a good meta where everything is possible. Have we ever had that?
Maybe at a few points in the game.
Close.
I have to really think about it. Though.
I would say set 5, the end of set 5.5.
It's
like
it's
the last
usually
month.
towards the end. Yeah, it's usually towards the end of an entire set's life cycle that they arrive at like the perfect patch.
Yeah.
Because it's just really hard. It's just really, really hard to get everything into a state of
viability. It takes them a while to get it right. And that's totally fine because it's a fucking hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So...
like, can I just point out that I get really annoyed whenever I see people say things like just why can't these devs just balance the game better? Like, I feel like that's just the most unproductive and unconstructive thing you could possibly ever say. Like, if there's something wrong with the game, can you like? I'm just saying this as like a public service announcement. If you feel like there's a problem with the game, can you just like point it out and be like, why is X thing with the game so broken, or like why is X thing feel so bad to play against? Don't say things like, why can't the devs just do a better job of balancing? Like, that doesn't mean anything. And like, you have to understand that like this game is really hard to balance, and that like the perfect meta almost never exists. Like you're never gonna be in a spot where like you can literally play you can play almost anything, right? It's just really hard. So yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just wanted to get on that rant real quick.
It's the equivalent of like going into a chat and just say just hit,
Yeah.
or like why don't you
Just
just
hit,
hit?
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's just that
Why
easy.
can't
I
you
was
just
like,
get
wow,
lucky
thank
enough?
you. Why didn't I think of
Yeah.
that? Huh.
Yeah.
And they take a lot of they take a lot of flack for the last month of a patch as well. Like when the game's
Yeah.
really good, they're like, "Oh, the game's too good. Like the game's too fine right now. Like it just everything feels like good.
I know.
Like, oh, this is such a
Yeah,
shame.
it's
Where's my like broken
insane.
comp that wins every game? Why do I have to
Yeah,
think?"
yeah.
It's like
You can't please
Yeah.
people, man.
You
You,
can't
really
please
can't make
everybody.
people happy. It's insane. Like I just don't get it. Like,
Players or like when you go into this like dev space or you create
Yeah.
things for other people, it's like you hear a lot of people say like users don't know what they want, and that's true.
They really
They
don't.
don't. They don't.
They really don't.
Like
To
if
put it
users
into
do what they
perspective-
wanted, like we
Sorry,
wouldn't
go, go.
have jobs that catered to those users, right? Like they would
Oh,
just
yeah,
be able
yeah.
to fix the problems themselves. But
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
because they think they know what they want, present that they try to explain it as best they can, but they don't see like all the possibilities or
Yeah.
like efficiency and things like that. Like they're designers for a reason because they understand like
Yeah.
they have to do things in certain ways to appeal to more people because it's been proven like it works like that. Like even when I was watching the AMA and like hearing Mortdog have like these heuristics that he goes through, like it makes sense, and I understand like why he sticks to them because they work and they have been working, and he's like worked for as a designer like since I don't know, like 10+ years I think. Like he understands more than a guy coming in to play TFT for like 2 months. And it's like, oh, chatting. It's like, oh, this is broken.
Yeah. Put it into perspective, right? We literally went from a patch where people were non-stop complaining about reroll comps, and now those exact same people are complaining that it's nothing but fast-dated legendary comps. Like, bro, I don't know what you want. It's like I just don't get it sometimes.
Yeah.
it's like that
Yeah.
Simpsons. It's like that Simpsons meme. It's like you guys want a fast 8.
Oh yeah,
You guys want a fast 8 meta with ability to play legendaries? Yeah, but you guys also want reroll comps to be really, really good and the best thing to play? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys don't know what you want. Yeah. It's like
It really is, dude. It's literally the itchy and scratchy like kid focus group meme. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how TFT kind of goes at the moment. So with all that being said, I will say that the perfect metas that we've had, people have bitched about. The end of set 5.5
that's
was
the
some of the
scary
most
thing.
interesting and
Yeah.
entertaining TFT you could possibly play because it was so nuanced and everything was good enough to top 4 if you were good enough.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then the game's like, people are like, this
Yeah.
is fucking boring. Fuck
Like,
this.
the end of the end of 5.5 is like the perfect example. You can literally play any 4 cost in top 4. You can literally reroll like a whole bunch of things in top 4 as well.
You
And
can
people
go
still
level
complain.
9. You can go level 9. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you could reroll 3 costs, 2 costs. Like, so
Because,
there
yeah.
is an ideal world out there that exists, and people I think are not used to it taking a while to get there, which is okay. But I will say that you need to let them get there basically at the moment.
Yeah.
Because every new set is a new set for them as well. They haven't been playing the set for much longer than we have. Like, maybe the set's been in development for a few months at a time, right? But going from, I don't know, 6.5 to 7, like, they're still balancing an entire set, you know, in the meantime, while they're developing another set and play testing units in another set. They're not, like, playing live games because they don't understand how live players are going to interact with the units. So they have
For sure.
Yeah.
a significantly... They basically have the same amount of time to play the game at a proper level as everybody else.
Yeah, as an aside to that, just to quickly tack onto that, Mortdog has specifically said that like if like he's in the works of trying to make this happen, but Riot needs to approve it. He actually wants to hire a team of like high elo challenger players to like just play test the game for him, like prior to like sets coming out, and I think that would be like really really helpful. But yeah,
I agree. I really agree. That would be
I think
that
that would be
would
really, really helpful.
that'd be
Agreed.
very
Agreed.
fucking helpful. Imagine if you could have an extra 6 weeks to understand the nuances of a set, so they know where the issues may pop up. You know, obviously, it's probably going to give those few people a little bit of an edge, let's say. But you know, we need the game to sort of make sense for everybody, and the patches to kind of work ideally.
Mhm.
Because the
Yeah, for
game,
sure.
if the game takes 6 months to make work, then you've got 4 weeks of the game that they really wanted. You know, oh, okay, so now we've got the perfect version of the game, but 50% of the people that started playing aren't playing it anymore. So there should be a little bit more leeway. I really like the idea of them like starting the process of learning about an actual set earlier.
Yep. Yep.
Not an easy thing
Sure.
to do.
No, oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Mort had a lot to say about Spatula, basically, is what's going on. Mort, for those of you who don't know, on Twitter, Mort did a big compilation effort of one of the most broken TFT comps in history. Place your bets. 3 of those top 4 included a spatula, basically. A spatula, like a necessary spatula to kind of take it over to the very top level, you know, being a top 4 comp to being a top 1 comp. Mort was basically asked, like, Tome, they brought in Tome, they've made some changes to Spatula. What are your thoughts on Spatula? Can you fix it? Is it broken? What do they want to do with it? Sol.
Yeah. So they mentioned. I mean, I think we'll touch on this in a later question, but Mort has mentioned that like he and the team firmly believe that like what the vast majority of TFT players, I think as like semi-competitive players who play like on somewhat like the high elo end of like ladder, we tend to forget that like we probably make up like 10%, 9% of the entire player base. That there's a ton of other people who play the game a lot more casually, a lot more less seriously. And so going back to what I was just saying, Mort and the team believe that like, and I tend to agree with this, that the most important thing when it comes to an auto battler like TFT succeeding is that the game has novelty. And what novelty means is that like there are really exciting things that you can do with like building a team. Like the game is at its most fun when like you put together like a really insane like synergy, and we can bring this, we tie this in with the whole spatula thing, right? The game is at its most fun when like you have like a transformative spat that just completely changes how a unit behaves. Like we can use Mage Swain from set 4.5 as an example. Swain by himself, just a 5 cost, he's strong. You put a Mage hat on him and then boom, this guy's like 6k HP, scythe the entire team, unkillable. That's insane, right? And that's really, really fun for a lot of people. Another really classic example is like Protector Aurelion Soul from set 3, where he's just unkillable, endless shields, flies around the entire board, just kills everything with his fighter jets. Are these things broken? Absolutely. But are they some of the most entertaining and fun experiences the game has to offer? Absolutely. So it's a really fine line that they have to walk between making spats exciting and transformative and like these things that you chase for, but also have them in a state where they don't damage the competitive integrity of the game, right? And Moore has specifically noted that in set 6 and 5, they've basically failed on the novelty end of this, in that spats have not been particularly interesting to play with. I think I'll give them some slack, and I think that the spats in set 5 were actually quite good because they were twice the amount of spats with the shadow spats. But I think once we got to 5.5, the spats got pretty boring, and I think set 6 so far, like the spats have been pretty boring as well. Just a lot of spats that just like don't really change the units at all. They just add more numbers, right? Nace in chat mentioned Dustfat Jin. Like Dustfat is a good one, right?
Oh my god.
So yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that they can't do is litigate. Like they cannot make innovative champions and be like, oh shit, but what if demolitionist spat's really good on a unit that makes a bunch of spaceships and floats around. Like, because they want to make a cool dragon that is a spaceship and dances around and throws a bunch of smaller spaceships out and does a bunch of damage and does really cool shit. So their first priority really should be to make cool units. And then the second priority really sort of has to end up being, well, can we make, like, is there a way to prevent the items that can be placed on this unit from, like, being too overpowered, basically. I will give them some credit for Tome, but I will not give them credit for Set 6 Tome. Set 6 Tome is an infinitely worse version of Tome than Set 5, 5.5, especially.
5.5 Tome was insane, yeah.
Yeah. I actually think that that's the better way to do it, generally. I think that you should be able to get like, if you get a tome, you're essentially saying, okay, I need a trait for the board that I currently have. Set 6 definitely fails in that promise to make Spatula interesting and influential on your board. That's also a different story because at the same time, you get a lot of spats out of your augments if you want them.
Yeah, you do.
Only
you
if you
get
want
a lot
them.
of emblems, a lot of hearts.
A lot of emblems and hearts. Like, there's way more routes into getting Spatula in this set. So why the fuck would I take Tome when in this set it's barely ever giving me what I want unless I fill in these very specific requirements of having 6 separate units with separate traits available. Because they're not always going to pick the trait that I want. In fact, it very much feels like at the moment, or at least, cognitive bias, it doesn't ever really give you the one that you want. I'm sure there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of people out there that are like, bro, Tome's so good. I get Chemtech every time. But it's a big...
What's the word? Confirmation bias? Is that the one?
It's certainly confirmation bias to be like, oh, it sucks or it sucks for me. But what I mean is, like, the way that it currently exists in the game is...
Yeah, our Rock in chat brings up a really good example, like a really good point. Being able to receive an augment from creeps just feels like being able to receive what is essentially a gold level power augment creep round. That's pretty bad, right? Like, you can just get Tome from Krugs. So having to take it as your augment. So yeah, sure.
It does feel bad. That's right. And so realistically, I think that Tome is in a bad spot right now because I think that they tried to nerf its usefulness basically by giving it more stricter conditions for it to work in. But it doesn't. I mean, I'm not a big fan. Realistically, let's say that. Dahpla, what's your overall sort of opinions on Spat and how it's been implemented in the most recent set?
I don't know. I feel like all the spatulas, like all the trait spatulas this set, have kind of been overshadowed a little by the whole augment system. Like I was just thinking, like, throughout the conversations, like, spatulas from old sets which I like heavily enjoyed using was like the Dustbat Jin, the Dustbat Kane. Like those weren't like transformative in the sense that they became different champions, but they were transformative in the sense they gave them a lot more power in a different way. But then, like, I'm just thinking about, like, well, how come Arcanist Spat doesn't feel like that? Like, Arcanist Spat is essentially the same thing, right? Like, Arcanist units get more AP than the rest of the team. It's almost a copy of the trait, but it doesn't feel any better. And I'm not, like, entirely sure why it is like that, other than the only thing I can think of is that you just end up having the ability to get those spatulas or traits through augments, that it doesn't feel any more special. And also combined with the fact that, like, it was really the champion that made the spatula, if that makes sense. Like the champions were so cool, and they had like these like crazy like ways they could scale that it made the spatulas better. But there's nothing like that like outstanding in this set that I can think of. Like when you think about like demo Aurelion Soul or Protector Aurelion Soul, like that's because like the way he generated mana was so different and so cool. And I mean so unique that those spatulas worked better on that champion. Like and then you think about like the Mage Swain example, like he got like so much ridiculously stronger that it felt really good putting the spatula on him. And then like those are the fun moments, but it also becomes like the like, oh well then if you have this spat you should go for this champion. It's like it doesn't really work on anybody else. So it's really hard to balance that as well. I just think like there's like, oh maybe they can give us more spats and then we can experiment more. But then if they give us more spats and like the game gets in a weird state, then it's like, oh well maybe if they give us less spats it won't feel as bad to get a spat or something like that. So yeah, it's an odd spot, I would say. Not really like sure how to deal with it.
Maybe it's also feels like a reasonable problem in this set where, like, you can definitely tell that there's maybe, again, personal opinion, there's probably two spats that feel really good to sort of like splash on the big cool legendaries that do cool stuff. Like Chemtech's really cool to splash on the things, give things health regeneration, attack speed, like stays alive longer. It's cool to add like mutant to your late game carries. Maybe they get like execute on, I don't know, Yone or whatever it may be if you're playing Kaiser already, or you get bonus health and damage on Galio.
The mutant prismatic, shout out to that one. That one's particularly fun, where they give you 2 mutant stats. That one's actually really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really boring, the rest of the spats, to be honest.
The rest are really boring, yeah.
And that also links into the fact that there's like not a significant amount of innovation in the units in this set. They like don't like, aside from some of the 5 costs, which are really cool, like Tarm Kench, like Chemtech Tarm, really cool. Like he just stays alive forever and eats like a billion things. There's not a lot of reason to like add spatula to your board.
Yeah, like you're always the most disappointed when your gold orb drops you a spat. You're like, that could have been 2 4 costs.
Yeah.
That could have been Boom. That could have been Nico. That could have been literally anything other than spat. Yeah.
And also, like, the problem with Tome versus Spat is that when you get a Spat drop, you have to go out of your way to fix the Spat. Like, and it's also like more awkward when some of the Spat items are core components for that Spat comp, which is like examples like challengers. Like you want Bow to make a challenger Spat, but you want Bow because it makes challenges better. Or like the challenges have core items which revolve around Bow. But when you get the tome, you have the trait straight up. It's like, you know, that's instant power, or wherever you use it. Like it could be instant power. Like it feels better. Yeah, it's an oddball.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. I think the more daring they are with the units, and the more daring they are with the traits, the better off it'll be, basically. Spatula will be. Because how cool is Demolitionist, you know? Or the ability
How cool is Demon Kaiser? It's lit.
It is cool, like, don't get me wrong, obviously it's broken, but it is fucking cool, man. Like, it's so cool. Like, yeah, let's not talk about Cavalier Spat.
I like Cav.
I actually like Cav Spat.
I like Cav, yeah.
When it wasn't broken, then sure.
Yeah, Cav like Yasuo and Jax was very satisfying.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Well, you know, why not? Why not, I guess. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's definitely a lot they can do to balance out Spatula.
Sure.
I think it starts with the units more so than anything. The units and the actual traits themselves. There can be a sort of a change made there. The more yeah, I would say right now that they're probably a little hesitant to make something like extremely cool. That like a trait that gives you like stuns and like significant bonuses or whatever, because they're just worried like, oh, there's going to be like 3 champions that abuse that spatula really badly.
Yeah, it's hard, right? That's the thing. I really feel for them on this like specific issue, because like on the one hand, you know, we don't really want to play a game with like boring spats, but on the other hand, like how many broken comps in the past have been because of a specific spatula being abused? Like a lot, right? So it's hard. It's really hard, I think. So yeah. I'm gonna pretend I have the answers.
Like, another consideration is that like spatula takes up one of the item slots, so you have to weigh up whether the spatula or whether
It doesn't anymore. That's changed. That changed. It actually doesn't anymore. Spat is like completely like a bonus item now. Actually, it did used to.
No. I mean, like when you put a spatula on a unit, it takes up one of the 3 item slots.
Okay. That's what you meant. Sorry, my bad. I thought you meant like. I thought you meant spat was like one of your 12 components. No. Okay.
No.
Sorry. You keep going.
That's okay. Like duelist KO was stronger than putting your last bow item on KO because the trait was stronger. But if not all the spats are like, or if not all the spats are like that, then it doesn't. Then it's like, why would you ever put it on, right? So it's another.
Duelist KO is a good example. Duelist KO is also so
like
broken.
that one. See, that one was good because the stat felt good on KO. And like the Blade Master spats, like the Dust spats. But some of them, like, I don't think Imperial is that great, is what I would say.
No, Imperial's a good example, because Imperial spat is literally just like 75% damage if that unit is like a tyrant. But like,
Yeah,
and then you
damage.
I think the problem is just with Imperial as well, because you need to run 2 other Imperial units.
It's not only that, it's like how bad chase spatulas feel in a lot of ways. Like Scholar.
Wait, so Scholar's actually broken. Oh, do you guys want to know some dark technology? Okay. This is not in the questions that I have listed that is like going to be covered, but this was in the later 2-hour section of the FAQ. Okay. This is really interesting. You guys want to? I don't know if you guys know about this. Okay, this is gonna be a real big PBG moment. Okay, so this is the way mana gain currently works. Okay, on units at mana lock. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So do you know this one? Okay. So basically, when a unit mana locks, okay, if other sources cause it to gain mana while mana locked, once the unit's finished being mana locked, it will immediately have that mana available. The 6-color is broken because it causes the mana to like overflow, if that makes sense. But even just in general, so for example, right, if you have an Urgot, right, and you're gaining a bunch of mana in the background while he's casting his ultimate, as soon as he's done, he'll just get that mana back immediately and probably immediately like insta cast again. And yes, this is a bug.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You ever see like the Urgot second cast? Like that did not feel like it cost 50 mana to get that second.
Yeah.
Like, something's off. Like it's like the what's that movie called with the superhero family? Where it's like the
Incredibles.
Yeah, the Incredibles, and then the teachers in that like office are just like, coincidence? I think not. It's like I knew it.
Yeah, it's like Socialite 2 Urgot, it's actually like so good because he just permacasts.
I thought you were talking about that the Tristana 3 with mutant spat and blue buff that perma ults. With, mana mutant. If you have mutant spat blue buff Tristana, it perma ults. So nothing can get near it. That's funny. Anyway, that's cool. So 6-color is bugged at the moment. That's cool.
I did learn this from Mortdog Game A. Like I didn't know that before I listened to Mortdog Game A, but like it's actually bugged. It's kind of yikes.
It's actually fun learning about bugs, honestly.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move
Back
on,
track.
shall we? We got a few more questions.
Yep. You wanna read it, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. I did just lose it for a second, so I'm getting it back.
Okay. I wasn't sure because there was a pause. Yeah.
Yeah. Legendaries. We actually sort of touched on this a little bit in the last couple of questions.
Yep.
Mortdog was asked about like the disappearance of the flashy, amazing legendary. like the legendary that does the super cool stuff that absolutely unbelievably changes the course of a fight with its incredible ability, and like why they decided to get rid of these like really memorable things. Sol, do you want to talk us through Mort's answer?
Okay, I'm like entirely on Mort's like side on this answer, in that like I have no clue what like the guy asking this question is on about, because like the legendaries in set like 6 absolutely feel like legendaries. I think maybe they just have PTSD from set 5 where the legendaries were like all pretty bad. But like this set, the legendaries absolutely feel like real legendaries, right? I think like Mort specifically, like, and that's okay. For the record, that's basically what Mort said. Like Mort was basically like, yeah, Akali literally just like an assassin that like jumps all over the place and just like executes like everything. Like a freaking with the rocket launcher that just dives in on a massive rocket, like she dives in a big explosion, shoots everything with the rockets. Like, Kaisa, Yumi. The most boring legendary is probably Jace. And even Jace, I feel like, has a lot of play to him. Because he can be a frontliner and a backliner.
Yeah.
Jace is arguably the most boring legendary in the set, and I think even Jace is like fine. I don't know. On this one, like I feel like the legendary is like fine where it's at. You guys' thoughts?
I'm gonna say Yumi's the most boring before I let Dahpla go for this one. I think Yumi's pretty boring.
I mean, that makes sense, because like least impact, or well, like least carry like, but still very impactful.
Yeah. I think the guy is like clearly confused by what he wants out of a legendary. The guy that asked this question. I would say, because so many of the legendaries are like really cool in this set. It's not to say that some of them aren't like broken beyond belief, but they are really cool. Jace changing his entire playstyle based on where you put him on the board is like some fucking cool shit.
Isn't that cool? Like,
that's fucking awesome. Tahm Kench literally eats dudes and gives you an item for it if he kills them.
Yeah, like man, it's like that guy.
That's some fucking sick ass shit, bro.
Like what legendary shows up in your shop in this set and you're just like, oh, I don't want this unit. Like, okay, right now it's actually Jinx, but like for the most part, right?
Galio when I'm playing Urgot. That's it. That's the only time I'm like, ugh.
Okay, but I do want to bring up this point though that I think is really interesting for discussion, which is like I don't understand what people want, because right now like we're in a 5-cost meta and all I see is people complaining about like 1-star 5 costs. I'm just like, I don't get it, because I'm pretty sure these people complaining about it are the same people who are like, oh, 5 costs are boring. Oh, I'm so unexcited when I see a 5 cost in my shop. Why are they so bad? You know? You guys are feeling?
Yeah, I love that legendaries are cool. Like, and good. Dahpla?
They're probably the most unique they've ever been in this set. Like not a lot of my IRL friends play TFT, but like when I was like reading the leaks and like reading what their abilities do, I was like talking to our friends like, bro, you gotta play TFT. Like they have Akali, she's dashing around, she's doing like infinite, like she's going like zoom, like it's like I know you play Akali in League, like you gotta try this, It's like damn. And then like even like Jinx is pretty unique. Like I don't know if anyone knows, but Jinx also hits her own allies. Like she burns.
Jinx hits her own allies.
Yeah,
that one's pretty funny.
Like even like that subtlety is pretty unique. Like Jace switching forms, like we've never had that. I don't think.
No, not a unit that like switches forms depending on. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We haven't.
Like even Kaisa becoming like the super hyper carry, like with like just like infinite missiles coming out. Like that's cool. Like they all fulfill like a certain fantasy. Like even Vigar, like the way you get to Vigar is so unique. Like 5 costs basically allow the TFT team to make whatever the heck they want. Like 4 costs have to be a specific thing, where like 4 costs have to be consistent. They have to be carry like, or some of them have to be carry like. Some of them have to be tank like. They have to fulfill a certain role. But 5 costs, you just like send it. It's like have this Kench. Eat some things. I got a free item. It's lit,
Sure.
So yeah, I really enjoy the 5 costs. I also agree with Mort and disagree with the viewer. I don't know what they were saying. Like I was like listening to questions, like
yeah, I think to pull it back a little bit though, I do actually really want to. I do actually kind of want to ask you guys, like, what do you guys think about like the sort of health of just 5-cost carries though in general? I think we could all agree that like a 2-star 5-cost should probably be like a pretty freaking good unit, right? And that it should probably be enough. Like a fully stacked 2-star 5-cost carry should probably be enough to win the game. But like, how do you guys feel about like a 1-star fully stacked 5-cost carry being enough to like top 4, like order top 4, and sometimes even like top 3, top 2 lobby, and maybe even win depending on how strong the lobby is. Because that is the current state of the game that we're in, right? So yeah.
There should, if they're going to make 1-star 5 costs good, they should make all of the 1-star 5 costs really good.
That's kind of where we're at, though, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's a better
Yeah.
place to be than, I'll use set 5.5 in this example, where like Heimerdinger was really overpowered and the rest of the 5 costs
The
sucked.
rest was trash. Yeah.
Like, and it was just everybody just goes for that one thing. Whereas now, if you see a guy that hits Kaiser at 4-2, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go look for Victor now instead, or I'm gonna go look for Akali, or I'm gonna go and look for Jin 2 plus, like, I'll grab a Jason or Yumi on my way down, or oh shit, I found 2 Galio, like maybe I can do this or this. Like, the impact of the legendaries should be impactful as long as they're all good, and at the moment they are all good.
I think they're all good. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Sure, you could tone Kaiser down a little bit. Like, surely that's like reasonable to say. But what the fuck do you want out of a legendary, man? They're supposed to be good.
Exactly. I think that you brought up a really good point, right? I think that this patch would feel so much worse to play if like Victor and Akali, if you couldn't flex into Victor Akali when you're going for Kaiser. I think that because you can flex into Victor Akali, it actually feels like very rewarding to play, because like the board variations are slightly different every time, like different, and the other 2 carries have their own nuances as well when it comes to itemization and everything else, right? I think it was just a Kaiser lottery, it'd be pretty like, it would feel really bad to play it, but I don't even think that the game is just a Kaiser lottery right now. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Quite balanced. Yeah.
It's like set 3. Set 3 was like all the legendaries, like in their own way, were really good. So it's like, oh, you didn't feel bad when you found one. Like,
yeah, for sure.
You know, it's really important that they all feel pretty good. And right now, they all do feel pretty good. Sure, Kaiser is a little overpowered. That's fine.
Yeah.
If everybody can agree that Kaiser needs a little bit of a nerf, that's okay. But don't just fucking gut Kaiser and assume that the problem's going to be fixed. Because eventually, it'll just be like, okay, now I'm just rolling for Victor. Oh, Victor's too good. Oh, okay, we nerf Victor. Oh, man, now Akali's too good. And then just, if they keep doing that over and over again, then you're not going to get any interesting, like, 5-cost metas at all, because you're just going to like slowly gut all of the cool champions in the game.
Yeah.
If anything,
I would say
buff the bad units. You know, like buff the units that aren't performing well enough. Like, make a 3-cost carry viable, so some guy can't go level 8 at 4-2 with 75 health every game. Like, or 90 health, you know, like they're not losing because everybody's boards aren't punishing them at the moment. So make it make it more viable to do more damage early game. Like, punish these people that are literally just sitting around waiting to get these cool carries. That's a better way to play the game, and that should be a better way to nerf the units as well.
I will say that I think like this specific fast 8 meta compared to like previous ones has like, one of the things that I've liked more compared to previous ones is that like, it's not so binary that like you just play for like a 2-star 4-cost and then boom, that's enough to like top 4 you, if that makes sense. And I think the game's like, I think like fast 8 metas in particular can get really stale when like the game is literally just like econ until like 4-2, like 4-3, 4-5, roll for like 2-star 4-cost and then boom, top 4, right? Like the fact that like you actually have to like think about like playing like legendaries like as your carry instead of just like a 4-cost actually makes it so that like, and 4-costs are still good. That's the thing. 4-costs like are still good for sure, and you can like still top 4 with them as well. So I think that like that's made this patch a lot more fun to play compared to previous ones. I don't know if you guys like feel similar, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think that 1-star 5-cost will always need to be good, like as a baseline. They can't be bad at all. And like, you have those moments where you do a roll down, like you have your 4-star, was it 4-star 2-cost? No. 4-cost 2-star, no. Yeah, 4-cost 2-star, 2-star 4-cost.
Yeah.
And then you see a 1-star 5-cost. And then like for that like split second, you have to think about
Yeah.
whether you can make the pivot. Like that is probably going to be like what Mort like really ideally wants. Like it's like when you had like the chosen mechanic, when
Mhm.
you saw a chosen, and then you really considered whether you could make it work. Like that's probably gonna be like the best thing that they could get out of
Sure.
things like that, where they change your whole game
Absolutely.
plan. So, but like having them be bad will never reinforce that idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
All
All
right.
right, guys.
Do we
So
want to
we got one
do the
more.
next question? Or? Yeah.
This will probably be our last one for the Mortdog AMA. This is a good one. This is a really good one. Mort was asked if he thinks that there's a way to incentivize players to be more innovative instead of like taking comps from websites or online, or basically like net decking, if we can use like a card game term.
Net decking is a good one.
Ah,
Net
haven't
decking
had
is a
that
really
one
good
in
one.
a hot minute.
Yeah. Net decking is a good one.
And Mort was asked basically, is there a way to stop people net decking and just like piling in on the stuff that's really broken for 2 weeks and like being more innovative? Sol, do you want to talk about Mort's answer to this one? Because it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, so Mort's answer is that, like, I think what he said specifically was that if anyone can figure out a solution to this problem, that, like, they would essentially have the answers to a extremely successful game, and that, like, the solution to like this issue would literally be worth like millions and millions and millions of dollars. If that makes sense. Because for as long as like online gaming has existed, this has been a problem, right? Because like like with just how the internet works, like people are gonna figure out like what's good really quickly, and then that's always gonna spread like wildfire, like no matter what. And then sooner or later, like you will always just end up in a scenario where like lower rated players are simply just emulating strategies that higher rated players are like doing to like do well, right? And this just sort of feeds a cycle where it just keeps going, right? It just keeps like it keeps going down the pyramid, so to speak, right? Like it always starts with like player A innovates at the very top, right? They build they figure out something that's really really OP, and then player B sees this, figures out how to play it, then player B teaches players C, D, E, and then they then teach all the players down there, and it just keeps going down, and then everyone like the next thing you know, everyone on ladder is just forcing Katarina. So it's sort of an unavoidable problem, you know.
Yeah. Dahpla, what are your thoughts on this sort of thing?
It's basically, not basically impossible, but it's like near impossible to have a solution for. Like if they knew how to fix it, they would already have the fix for it. But you almost kind of need everything to be good, which is a lot
Yeah.
easier said than done. Like not even like that you need everything to be good. You basically need an infinitely number of things to be good, because then you could be in a spot to experiment and then have a result which doesn't fail, which is I don't think is gonna be how TFT will ever be. Like just the reality of it. I do think that like apart from like obscenely broken stuff, like the idea of people teaching other people comps, I think it's good to share knowledge, to like it sort of helps people innovate because you're finding new things that you probably wouldn't have done before. Like I don't know, I don't think that they need to solve for that for the game to be successful. Or like the game is already successful, and it's not a solved problem. So I think the way TFT is now is fine. They just need to keep doing what doing what they've done and like improving on it, and they don't need to make it like completely intuitive.
I will say that the point of a competitive game is that everybody wants to know what the best thing is. Like, if you want to be better at this game and you don't go and look up what's good, it's like you're not really doing yourself the justice to be a better player. It's the same principle with card games. It's like, oh man, this card deck just won this huge tournament out of 1,000 people, and he did it by sorry, not he, sexist. Anyway, continue on. They did it by doing this and this and this. It's like, oh shit, I can do that. I just need to know exactly the cards that they've got, and I'll do it. Sounds great. I love that. No worries. Just, I'll copy the exact strategy. I'll copy the exact points that they said were good and when to do it, and then I'll win. TFT is different in the sense that every game of TFT is so fundamentally different, especially now because of the augments. The idea of like straight copying what somebody does at every single one, at 1-2 and at 3-3 and at 4-5 is like totally unrealistic, that you will never get the same game results as somebody else round to round, game to game. So how do you atone for that? I actually think that it's a champion problem, where Dahpla said that if everything was good, they wouldn't actually have this issue, because there wouldn't be this glut of singular information from the top down, like Katarina. Like, oh, okay, 3 people tell 6 people who tell 18 people, and so on and so on and so on. Pyramid scheme.
Pyramid scheme,
The pyramid,
That's how it goes.
the TFT pyramid scheme, where at the top there's just one guy who's played 3 games of Katarina, and it's like, this shit's fucking broken.
Yeah.
And it just trickles down slowly and slowly. But if Katarina wasn't such a broken unit to begin with, it wouldn't have got past like the 30th person.
That
Like
stage of popularity.
yeah, there's like a natural stopping point if the unit itself isn't blatantly overpowered.
I think
you have a raised hand.
Sorry to cut you off there, David. Like,
no,
I want to say,
you're
like,
good.
I don't even know if this is a I think it's like two sides of the same coin. Like things that are popular on the internet were essentially what's innovative. Like the first few players that played Katarina probably were just like thinking like, man, like how has no one played this unit yet? Like this actually kind of slaps.
Yeah.
Like this unit kind of does a lot of damage, but they were probably like maybe they didn't optimize it, or maybe they didn't like open for it the stage 2, and like they were just playing it because they realized it was strong with like specific items. And they're probably like no one knew that Ionic was like a VAS, because typically you don't put Ionic on your carry units because you try to save the slots. And like like essentially Katarina was one of the innovative comps to begin with. It's just like it just depends on like how many of those there are over the course of the game, and like how strong they become during their phase of popularity. It's probably the core of it. But yeah, if you wanted to continue on with that.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think part of the problem, and I'm not shaming anyone, although I kind of am. I'm not shaming anyone who plays the game like this, is that like there's always gonna be a population of players who purely play the game by like emulating successful strategies. Like they'll just be like, okay, what's like the most like popular comp right now that I can force? Oh, it's Katarina. Okay, I'm 2020 Katarina every single game. You know what I mean? Like there's that population of players who just play the game like this. Like it's always just, what can I force? I'm gonna force this, and then it's like I'm not saying that this is a wrong way to play the game. I'm just saying that like part of the issue and how these kind of metas get created is because there are players who don't really play the game. They just pick a comp and play a comp. That's sort of the way to put it. I'm not picking on anybody. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that, like, if you want to go ahead and force a comp, go for it. And there are pretty people who do this, who just pick a comp and force it every single patch.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, we're now, what, a month into the set, basically? Like 6 weeks even into the set. We're not going to see another Katarina for the rest of the set, really, are we?
Oh, you never know.
You do. That's right. Like, there have been certain instances, like, let's take Kha'Zix, for example, where it took like a month, 2 months, 3 months before it was even understood that it was any good. And all of a sudden, like, it's just getting played. But it's very, very rare. I can't think of, like, many significant instances other than that over the course of TFT's lifetime where like with 6 weeks to go in an entire set, a totally new, undiscovered, underplayed, secret, overpowered comp just becomes popular. And then all of a sudden it just like trickles down this whispers all the way down to Challenger.
Kaiser Social was kind of like that, you know? Like, it was literally unplayed, like, before the patch. All it took was for the game to slow down, to be like, oh, wait, these units are broken. Right? Like, who was playing Kaiser Social, like, last patch? Literally nobody, because you were just getting 20-0'd by Cat.
Yeah, and it's like a game systems thing. It's like the game will continue to change, so the units will continue to change. But once you know what all of the units do, if you're like someone that genuinely keeps up with the game to a relative degree, like, you know, the people listening to this understand what the TFT meta is, I imagine. So on and so forth, you know, if you're like a high tip player, you know what all the units do and how they combine. So you're not going to be like surprised on ladder when you see like a unit paired with another unit in a comp that like does well. You're not like, oh dude, what the hell was that? Now I have to go and do it. This is sort of more like for the uninitiated people. And it's just a problem that will always exist, no matter what, basically. You cannot change people's like desire to just not pay attention until they want to know what's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they'll eventually get
nothing
it.
wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with it. So it's not something that needs to be changed in TFT.
Sure,
but,
for sure.
But like, don't ship Katarina in that state. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, you need people to figure out the comp to know that like you weren't supposed to ship Katarina in that state to begin with.
And that's why you need that group of challenger people to play the game for 6 weeks.
Maybe we'll get Rito to approve that challenger playtest project, and then we're chilling. But you know, before that, it's not really their fault. I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that actually, funnily enough, to bring it sort of all full circle, is actually a really good way to kind of fix some of the innate problems with TFT, is to have people play the set for way longer than a week and a half when it's on PBE.
Yep.
So,
sure.
That's pretty much going to do it for our Mortdog AMA madness. I mean, there's another 2.5 hours worth of Mortdog content that we could cover at a later date. We have other things planned for the start of 2022 though, so maybe we'll do this again when Mortdog does another AMA. But that's pretty much going to conclude.
He said that he really enjoys doing them, so hopefully there's more to come. So
yeah.
That's good. So, guys, for anyone who's watching live on the chat right now, please feel free to get in some questions if you've got them. But any final thoughts from our lovely guest Dahpla?
TFT fun. No, on a more serious note, like I think we're lucky to have such an open game designer lead that we visibly see, essentially. Like we know, like everybody basically knows who he is. And then we're also think about some of the balance notes. We're also lucky to have 2-week patches, or normally have 2-week patches. At the same time that we have shorter cycles for game content, like through the sets. So yeah, this game is fun, but for those reasons that I elaborated on, not just because it's fun, but yeah.
Winter's also fun because it's fun, to be fair.
That is true. It's fun because it's fun.
Guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Roll Down. Thank you very much, of course, to our guest Dahpla. But first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to my co-host, my best friend, my rock, the only man that I've interacted with in the last 7 days of home quarantine.
Oh god.
Sol, thank you very much for being here as always, and happy end of 2021. By the next time I see you, it'll be 2022.
Same to you. Same to everyone.
And let the people know where they can find you.
I'm Sol_TFT on twitch.tv, which is usually where you can find me. Follow my Twitter, which is at the exact same handles. But other than that, it's pretty much me.
Let's move on now. Dahpla, Richard, if you please, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me maybe on my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Dahpla, where I might stream in the near future, potentially. Very up in the air. Or you can find me on Ladder, which is probably where you'll see me more often, around the 300 LP mark, because that's where I'm about to hit. Poggo?
Nice.
Pogo.
You can also find him in the Roll Down Podcast Hub Discord, talking about TFT sometimes. He's actually in there quite a bit. So if you guys like chatting about TFT, you're more than welcome to join us on the Discord. Guys, my name is Cutler. This is broadcast live on my Twitch, twitch.tv/CutlerTFT. You can find me on Twitter at CutlerTFT. Let's get the hell out of here, guys. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. Stick around afterwards when I announce our plans for 2022 and who our next guest is going to be. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
Have a good new year. Hey, guys.